Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. On today's episode, we're going to interview Christine Elise. She is a film and television actress known for her roles as Emily Valentine in Beverly Hills 90210 and Kyle in the Child's Play horror movie franchise. She's also the writer, producer, and director of Bathing and the Single Girl, which has already won 20 awards. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, I'd like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It allows you to purchase live phone calls with your favorite celebrities, so check them out. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. So give it a try. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's say hello to Christine. Hi, Christine. Welcome to the John Ark Show. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm very well.
Great. How's the weather in Los Angeles?
It's perfect, like it always is. It's relentlessly perfect.
Excellent.
I like a little rain. We don't get much of it around here.
Do you get a week's worth of rain in a year, even that much?
Yeah, a week or two total maybe. But we got it all out of our system in the early weeks of COVID. We rained for the first couple of weeks, and now it's just gorgeous out.
All right. Well, those weather questions, those are going to be the only boring questions throughout the entire interview. So it just gets better from here. Hollywood has a long love-hate relationship with actresses that are noticeably brighter than the people they work with or the scripts that they read from.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that? What is your perception of that sort of thing been?
That the town is anti-smart women?
That they're not always comfortable with women who are smarter than their coworkers or the people they work with. Have you felt that?
No, I have not. I haven't actually. I think that people assume audiences are not as clever as they are, and I think that some of the smartest television, like West Wing, and shows like that are, intellectual shows, do very, very well. So I think that smart actors and smart audiences abound, and I haven't found any prejudice toward intelligence. And I like to think of myself as rather intelligent, and I've never felt like I had to hide that.
Well, that's my point. You are, and it's obvious that. Even when, you portray the characters that you do, that the IQ rises above the subject matter a lot of the time. So
well, that's flattering. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, by the way, Marilyn Monroe was famous for that. Her public persona was the ditzy blonde, but in reality, she was much smarter than the people that she worked for. And in fact, that's why she rose to become one of the highest paid actresses in the industry of her era.
That's actually incorrect. She was not highly paid. She was chronically underpaid. She was very, very smart. You're right about that. She was one of the first actresses, if not the first, to extract herself from the studio system and start her own production company to make her own projects and to have more control over directors and scripts and not be, on contract and have to just do any movie they threw her way. But she's notoriously underpaid.
And throughout most of her career, but are you familiar with her last career, the contract she forced the studio to give her at the very end? It was a monster contract, and then she died 5 minutes later.
That I'm unaware of that contract, but it makes sense that she didn't pay the money before she died, because I don't think she was. She's famous for saying that she, in the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, that she was the blonde, but she wasn't getting paid. She was getting a third of what Jane Russell was getting for the same project. So,
and it's funny because, the studio was filming a movie with Elizabeth Taylor, this monstrous epic.
Cleopatra. It made $1 million.
And that budget was the movie was so over budget that it was on the brink of bankrupting the studio, and it was only Marilyn's movies that were saving the studio at that point.
Because Marilyn wasn't expensive, and Elizabeth Taylor cost $1 million for that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of money back then.
That was a ton of money. So let's go back to when you were filming 90210. Your first few episodes have aired already. The fans in the industry are responding really well, and they love you on the show. Tell me about the effect that had on your life personally and professionally.
Well, professionally, it was the highest profile thing I ever did. It was sort of deep into its phenomenon status, at that point where the boys were getting, trampled in malls and they couldn't go in public and on the cover of Rolling Stone and stuff. So I had never done anything that was that big at the time. And it was the first time I started getting recognized out in public. Because I had that hair, it was just so identifiable, that white hair with the roots. It was easy to pick me out of a large crowd. And that was sort of exciting to get recognized. In fact, the first time it ever happened to me, I was in New York with a friend whose actual name is Emily. And we're walking down the street and people kept yelling, Emily, Emily. And I thought, like, how do all these people know you? Why do they all know you? And they didn't realize it was me they were calling Emily, because her name was Emily Valentine on the show. So it took me even a minute to even realize it was me they were talking to. And personally, I met Jason Priestley on that project, and we ended up becoming a couple for 5.5 years. So personally, it had a tremendous positive result. And professionally, I mean, I don't think I've ever had representation that really knew how to take advantage of moments in my career that could have been really parlayed into something bigger. I've suffered from chronic poor management, and so I don't know that it did as much for my career then as it might have had I been better represented.
Were you represented by the same agency when you started as you are now?
No, good Lord, no. I'm super promiscuous when it comes to representation because I feel I've chronically felt that I'm underrepresented, but I love where I am now. I don't feel that right now. So no, I've probably been through 20 agents. And
really?
Yeah.
So are they actively pursuing work for you, or are they just answering the phone calls?
Nobody's calling for me these days. I'm a 55-year-old woman. The phone doesn't ring for me, so you got to hustle to get me into a door. So I just hired them at the end of the year last year, and then the holidays happened, and then COVID happened. So I have no real way to know how their enthusiasm is manifesting, because there's nowhere for it to really manifest right now.
Who's your current agency?
The Gage Group.
Okay, all right.
Gage.
So, the passage of time has an interesting effect on real people, but it has an equally interesting effect on fictional characters. When you look back on the fictional characters you played in, 90210, as well as some of the other work, do you perceive them the same way now that you did back then when you were actually doing the work?
I don't watch my own stuff very often. I don't enjoy it, so I don't get to revisit stuff much. I have to I'm doing a Beverly Hills 90210 podcast this evening about a specific episode from season 2, and I have to rewatch it, and I'm dreading it because I don't want to watch myself in it at all. But as far as the characters, I mean, I think there's some stuff. Times have changed, I was watching a really interesting documentary about the Breakfast Club yesterday, and the fact that Molly Ringwald was 16 and Judd Nelson was 25, and there's sort of a kissing scene between them, and how inappropriate that wouldn't fly now to have a 25-year-old man kissing a 16-year-old girl. Back then, we weren't as sensitive to the things as we should be and as we are now. So they were talking about how that didn't age well. But I don't think any of my characters my characters always sort of edgy and modern. And so I think they tend to hold up a little better because they were a bit ahead of their time when I shot those stories.
Yeah. I've noticed that you're also an excellent writer. As an actress who loves to write, do you think your ability to write is what makes you a successful actress?
It's hard to say. I think intelligence it helps anybody in almost everything, right? Emotional intelligence, though, is a different thing from intellectual intelligence. And I think emotional intelligence is the thing you bring really to acting more than, intellectual capacity. So I like to think of myself as emotionally intelligent too. And I think that's what the thing that helps the most is being able to be empathetic and feel the things that your character's feeling so that you can portray them from being on their team. It's difficult to portray a character that you don't believe in what they're doing. Like when they started having Emily Valentine do crazy stuff, and I was bummed because I liked Emily Valentine, and I didn't want her to go crazy and do things that people would hate her for. And I fought to have that changed, and I lost that battle. So then I had to find a way to be on her team and like feel what I had to feel for her and be like, yeah, girl, like he's been bad to you, and those girls are bitches, and he needs to be tortured because he broke up with you and it wasn't fair. I had to like somehow feel that for her and play her sympathetically.
So, speaking of emotional intelligence, I was watching this clip of you earlier in the week. You were playing a scene with this nerdy kid. I think it was on 90210. And he was very nervous about kissing you. And you were, sort of enthusiastic about kissing him. But he wanted to make sure it was all being done for the right reasons. Do you remember that scene? It's on you. It's all over YouTube.
I'm pretty sure that was Head of the Class.
Okay, that's Head of the Class. Yeah.
Yeah, of course I do.
So what was interesting, before I ask, how old were you when you did that scene?
20, early 20s.
And how much acting experience had you had at that point?
Very, very little. No training and very little experience. It was one of my first jobs. I'm terrible on that show, by the way. But yeah, that was a really early one for me. I was probably 23.
But he was really good at playing his character, and you were really good at not being overly obvious, not being pandering, at bringing thought to the scene. And I thought it came across really well, given the year that it was produced in.
The late 80s, yeah. That was a fun scene because the show was a comedy, and sitcom comedy is a particular acting skill, is a particular talent to have, and I don't have it. I don't have sitcom acting comedy chops, and so I was much more comfortable in that scene because it was a sensitive scene, and it was not being played for laughs; it was being played for heart, and I'm much more comfortable doing that.
And playing it seriously made it even better. Because the usual sitcom approach is to make everything as silly as possible, and it didn't go down that road, and that made it even more effective.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's fast forward in time now. So you've been on 90210 for a few years, and and what are you noticing about that show's effect on your life? As your celebrity skyrockets, essentially, it was soaring to new heights. Was life becoming dramatically easier, both professionally and socially, or was it getting more complicated in a really sort of detrimental way?
Well, first of all, I think in the whole my entire run on 90210, I think I've only done 13 episodes. And that season 2, I did 7, I think, or 8 or something. I didn't do very many. Everyone thought I was in the show forever. I did very, very few episodes. They did 10 years, and I did 13 episodes of that. So my relationship with Jason made me more famous than the show did, because I was always standing next to him wherever he was. If he's, getting nominated for a Golden Globe, I'm sitting with him at the Golden Globes, and that sort of gave me a higher visibility than I would have had we not been a couple. And work, getting that job didn't hurt my career. And Aaron Spelling was a great patron of mine. He was like a godfather to me. He gave me lots and lots of work that I didn't have to audition for, which is always great. But I couldn't go to the mall for a couple of years. I couldn't do anything where I was stationary, where crowds could gather, like the mall, like stand there in a store and look at a sweater, and suddenly there's people giggling, and people have this idea that you don't know that they're following you and they're giggling and pointing, and you do. Actors get really great radar for that. They can pick it up like a hawk, So that was awkward, but the payoff is that I got more work. Like there was some awkward moments in public, but that's the cost of having a public career. I wouldn't say nothing really negative ever happened. I wouldn't say anything from my career has been negative.
So you're an Aquarius, I understand. What was Jason?
He's a Virgo.
So what brought you together, and what caused it to end?
Okay. Well, when I met him, he was 21, and I was 25. And I fell in love with him because he's really smart and really funny and really talented and beautiful. I mean, he's gorgeous. He was everything great. Now, what's not to love, right? Jason is fantastic. And what broke us up, I would say that we hooked up, we got together when he was 21. By the time he was 26 or 27, whatever the age he was when we broke up, I think he just wanted to be a solo guy. Like, he didn't get to ride any of that fame as a bachelor, really. It's like I was there the whole time. And I think, I can't imagine that I would ever have been with somebody forever that I met when I was 21. I don't think we're too young to be together forever. And I think he needed some time to go out and be a boy.
So you're originally from Boston, is that correct? Do you ever go back to Boston?
Very seldom. My parents still live there. The only family I have is my mother and my stepfather, and they both live there. But they tend to come out here to visit me. LA is a more fun place to, play around in than Boston. So I don't go back very often. I go back less than once a year. I go back every couple of years.
Do you feel any residual Bostonite residing within your soul, or have you completely converted to Los Angeles?
I'm absolutely a Bostonian, 100% a Bostonian. Really glad I grew up in Boston. Boston, I always say, when you see New Yorkers portrayed in movies and TV as, belligerent or rude or mean, that's not New York. New Yorkers aren't like that at all. Bostonians are. Bostonians are the most aggressive, sort of cranky bunch of any city I've ever been to. But it gives you a ball-busting sort of approach to life that I think has served me very well. I have a thicker skin than the average bear, and it builds confidence to be in that environment. So while I've been in LA since 1984, which is way longer than my 19 years of Boston, I'm basically a local, like a native of Los Angeles for just the duration of time I've spent here, but I'm absolutely Bostonian inside.
Yeah. I grew up in the most violent city in the world, so I think I know what you're talking about. But, I used to love visiting California, but it seems it's become so apocalyptic as of late. And it seems like the Los Angeles and the California that I knew, they've just become like a distant memory.
What do you mean? What's dystopian about Los Angeles?
Oh, come on. Just look at the YouTube videos. It's amazing. Every freeway overpass is a home to, 100 homeless people living under it.
We have a lot. We have a big homeless problem. It's true.
It's amazing. Has your perception of California changed over the years?
No, I've always loved it. I still love it. I think I always say that LA is like the Britney Spears of cities. It's a guilty pleasure, but something people tend to feel free to shit talk. Like it's an easy victim, an easy target to make fun of. I think LA has way more culture. It's the birthplace of movies, for Pete's sake. Movies and television. How can you say it's a town with no culture when so much it forms culture? This town creates and forms cultures through movies and television. It's gorgeous. It's an easy place to be poor. It's easier to be poor in Los Angeles than it'll ever be to be poor in New York. The weather's always great. It's a really friendly dog town. I'm a dog girl, and it's a good dog town. I will never shit talk LA. I think it's a great city.
Yeah, I mean, they keep raising the
shirt.
What's that?
I'm wearing an LA shirt.
Oh, there you go. So you worked on a show called China Beach, and I heard you say in an interview how much you loved it because of the intelligence of the writing. How hard are really good scripts to come by these days?
Again, I think it's true always. Great scripts are few and far between, and people like me don't tend to get to read them. The great ones go to people that are more established, and more established A-list people get the great stuff. The great stuff doesn't trickle down, So to get to be on a show, television shows are a little bit easier because the casts are bigger and they go on for a long period of time, so you have a lot more opportunity to be involved with it than you would, for example, in a feature. But yeah, it's always hard, and I used to think that saying women over the age of 40, were invisible in this town. I used to make fun of that until I turned 40. It was true. So it's a really tough town to be an old lady in.
I think I understand what you're saying, but I used to be a producer for Oprah. And when I began working for her, she was being nuked by the Jerry Springer show. At that time, all the big talk shows were produced out of Chicago, all of them. And so the competition was unbelievable. And she was being destroyed in the ratings. They were in serious jeopardy. Everything was at risk. And I helped turn that. I won't tell you how I did it on camera, but I can tell you, if you're interested, off camera. And I helped turn that around. And the key is always sourcing your own opportunities. If you're waiting for the phone to ring, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about anybody in the pursuit of their own career ambitions. It's all about sourcing your own opportunities. And I know a lot of celebrities who are working at various points in their careers and in their lives, and those that are really aggressive at sourcing their own opportunities, whether it's writing or whether it's working outside the industry, that's where the momentum is initiated. Because, I was talking to Ron Perlman, I don't know if you've ever met him, but Ron Perlman is not at all like the people he portrays on camera. He is the nicest, most civil, most polite individual. And he was telling me, he did Beauty and the Beast. I think it called Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast for 10 years. And after that, and that was a hugely successful show. And after that, he said the phone stopped ringing for 10 more years. He goes, it was unbearable. And then, he's had this recent run of highly successful shows. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, how aggressive he wasn't pursuing those opportunities, or what the specifics were, but all of that changed, and I see this time and time again with celebrities, and how they take control. And granted, you can't always control your own destiny. There is a certain amount of good fortune and fate involved, but I see it time and time again. Effort in sourcing material, creating material, collaborating, all those things, that does move things in a different direction for people. It may not do it this week or this month or this year, but it will have an effect. But anyways, so if you weren't an actress, what would you be doing now, do you think?
Well, if I could wave a magic wand and be anything, like make a wish to a genie, I would be a wildly successful author. I think that's my novel is the thing I'm proudest of in my life, that I wrote that and managed to get it out. But other than that, I as an actor, I didn't give myself anything to fall back on. I didn't have a second career to fall back on, where acting not to work. I did that on purpose. It's becoming more problematic now that I'm older and working less, and I don't have a thing to fall back on. But I'm a hustler, and I do anything that comes my way. I produced reality television for a couple of years, did a bunch of shows in reality TV, and in post-production, I was in post. I wrote a book. I did a short film that did 100 film festivals. I programmed film festivals for like 16 years. I still juror for them. I do everything that comes down the pike, but creative. I shot people's headshots. I'm a photographer. I did headshots for a long time. I shot real estate photography for a long time. I just do anything that keeps me busy and interested.
Do you write every day? Do you force yourself to write every day or every week?
No. When I wrote the book was a result of the short film. The short film was of the same name, Bathing in a Single Girl, and I had done 100 film festivals with it, and then got in front of somebody who said, "Well, that's really funny. If you can come up with more stories like that, you should write a novel, and I can get you a 3-book deal if you write a novel." And I was like, "Okay, that's all I need to hear." And I went home and I wrote the book in 8 weeks. And I wrote every day. I had a 2,000 word minimum per day, 7 days a week, and I wrote the book in. It's a big book too. It's a good inch thick. It's not like a little novella. And I wrote it in 8 weeks. So I was super disciplined then. And then I had to rewrite about half of it after we tried to sell it and I couldn't. So I rewrote about half of it, and that took another 8 weeks or so. But I'm very disciplined when I have a task in front of me. But I'm not a writer primarily. I'm an actress primarily. Oh, I also have a cooking show. I have a cooking show on YouTube, a vegan cooking channel that I write I come up with the recipes, I make them, I edit the show, I photograph the food. It's entirely a one-man show, the cooking show too.
So I saw that on YouTube. It's good. It's good. Let's move forward in 5 years. Let's advance 5 years to 2025. Where do you see the industry going in general? With reality television, with gaming, with all of that. Where do you see your industry going?
Well, gaming is outside of my realm of awareness, so I can't speak to gaming. But I mean, it's all, streaming and on demand it was difficult to even conceive of that when Netflix first started and it was mailing out DVDs, and they were thinking of doing a streaming platform. That was like a concept that would be, I think, beyond my capacity to even grasp at the time. And now clearly that's the present. I mean, I don't think much is going to change in 5 years. Not a lot can shift in 5 years. The most important shift that's happened already is that I think that the only edgy content that is made anymore is on television. Television's never been better. And movies seem to be just blockbusters, like just superhero movies, and no art house films, none of the rare, drama, that Meryl Streep sort of heavy film. They don't make them much anymore. Those stories are being told on television now. And I think that's great. It's accessible, and it's a lot more content and a lot more work for actors.
Yeah, and all the cinematographers the TV shows are hiring now just make the shows look beautiful. They're just epic looking.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Child's Play movies. How is working in that genre for you?
It's the same. All work is the same for me, except for comedy, which is just more challenging, and I can't do sitcom comedy, as I told you. But aside from that, it's all make pretend. So the thing, acting is acting. The only thing I think really heavy emotional work can be taxing, and you have to be, crying. You have to be Sarah Paulson, who has to cry big chunky tears 16 times in every episode of every show she does. I don't know how she maintains it. She must be so worn out when she goes home. She's always crying, and she's great. She's a brilliant actress. But that work is hard. But short of that, it's really the same. And even like working with a doll as opposed to working with an actor, it's still pretend. It's easier to work with a doll who doesn't have a personality or moods. So real actors you can maybe not get along with them. That's not true with a doll. And it's all fun. It's nice work if you can get it.
So before we wrap things up, is there anything you would like to promote?
Well, my novel. Okay, so my novel is Bathing in the Single Girl, and if you go to bathingbook.com, it's kind of a one-stop shop. There's a film tab, and if you go on an actual computer on the phone, it's hard to see. The tabs are hard to see; it's so tiny. But there's a tab that says the film, and you can watch the 10-minute comedy that I did before I wrote the book, and it works really well as a trailer for the book. So but the book is way dirtier and way funnier. It's a raunchy comedy. It's not erotica. It's not sexy at all. It's embarrassing, gross, humiliating stories that involve dating in a nightmare world of Los Angeles. And my channel, my cooking channel, I've been really lazy about it in COVID because everything I make on the channel I have to eat, and sometimes I don't feel like having macaroni and cheese for a week straight. So I've been really sort of lazy about the channel. But there's 150 episodes up. The channel's like 3 years old. And there's easily 150 episodes up of vegan cooking. And it's vegan cooking for meat eaters. It's not, I don't believe in preaching to the choir. I'm not trying to, there's no point in pitching vegan food to vegan people. I'm trying to pitch vegan food to people who are not vegan and who want to cut back here and there for whatever reason, because of health, because of the animals, because of the planet, or maybe their kid came home from college and declared themselves vegan and they don't know what to make for their kid and they don't want to make 2 different meals for the family. So they got to find some food that everybody will eat, but that is also vegan. So that's sort of the goal of my channel is to wean people off.
What is your favorite vegan meal?
I'm a big pasta and pizza girl. I was vegetarian since the 80s, and so I'm a bit of a carb whore. So I would say,
yeah, I eliminated most of the carbs from my life about 6 months ago, and it changed everything. I'm a low carb guy. I don't eliminate them entirely. I'll still have fruit and things like that, but it changed everything. So.
What else am I going to eat?
What's that?
What else am I going to eat? If you're not eating chicken or beef or fish or cheese, if I cut out carbs, I'm going to starve to death.
Yeah, I thought that too. but I was surprised that I was shocked at the effects it has on everything. Systemic.
I can imagine. I just can't give it up. I'd probably be better off if I didn't drink wine as much as I do too. But I love the wine and I love the pizza and the pasta. So, FTW.
Well, it was really nice having you on the John Ark Show. I wish you all the best, and you're always welcome back on the show whenever you like.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.